Number 1. Cranial cavity. This is the cavity that houses the brain. It is protected by the skull and contains cerebrospinal fluid that helps cushion and protect the brain. Number 2. Thoracic cavity. This is the cavity that contains the heart, lungs, and major blood vessels. It is protected by the rib cage and divided into two parts by the mediastinum. Number 3. Abdominal cavity. This is the cavity that contains the stomach, liver, pancreas, spleen, small intestine, and most of the large intestine. It is protected by the abdominal muscles and is lined with a membrane called the peritoneum. Number 4. Pelvic cavity. This is the cavity that contains the bladder, reproductive organs, and the last part of the large intestine. It is located below the abdominal cavity and is also lined with the peritoneum. Number 5. Spinal cavity. This is the cavity that contains the spinal cord. It is protected by the vertebrae and contains cerebrospinal fluid that helps cushion and protect the spinal cord. Number 6. Oral cavity. This is the cavity that includes the mouth, tongue, teeth, and salivary glands. It is responsible for the initial digestion of food and also plays a role in speech. Number 7. Nasal cavity. This is the cavity that includes the nose and sinuses. It is responsible for the sense of smell and helps to warm, moisten, and filter the air we breathe. Number 8. Orbital cavity. This is the cavity that includes the eyes and their supporting structures, such as the muscles and nerves. Number 9. Middle ear cavity. This is the cavity that includes the middle ear structures, such as the eardrum, ossicles, and eustachian tube. It is responsible for transmitting sound from the outer ear to the inner ear. Number 10. Pleural cavity. This is the cavity that surrounds each lung and is lined with a membrane called the pleura. It contains a small amount of pleural fluid that helps lubricate and cushion the lungs as they expand and contract during breathing. Number 11. Pericardial cavity. This is the cavity that surrounds the heart and is lined with a membrane called the pericardium. It contains a small amount of pericardial fluid that helps lubricate and cushion the heart as it beats. Number 12. Synovial cavity. This is the cavity that surrounds certain joints in the body, such as the knee and elbow joints. It is lined with a membrane called the synovium, which produces synovial fluid that helps lubricate and cushion the joint. Number 13. Cranial sinuses. These are air-filled spaces within the bones of the skull, including the frontal, ethmoid, sphenoid, and maxillary sinuses. They help to lighten the weight of the skull and also play a role in producing mucus to help moisten and protect the nasal passages. Number 14. Peritoneal cavity. This is the space between the organs in the abdominal cavity and the lining of the abdominal cavity itself. It contains a small amount of peritoneal fluid that helps lubricate and cushion the organs as they move during digestion. Number 15. Retroperitoneal cavity. This is the space behind the abdominal cavity that contains certain organs, such as the kidneys, adrenal glands, and pancreas. It is lined with a membrane called the retroperitoneum, which helps to hold these organs in place and protect them from damage. Number 16. Pharyngeal cavity. This is the cavity at the back of the throat that connects the oral and nasal cavities to the esophagus and larynx. It plays a role in swallowing and speech. Number 17. Laryngeal cavity. This is the cavity within the larynx, or voice box, that contains the vocal cords. It plays a critical role in speech and breathing. Number 18. Mastoid cavity. This is a small, air-filled space within the temporal bone of the skull, located behind the ear. It helps to lighten the weight of the skull and plays a role in hearing. Number 19. Lacrimal cavity. This is the space within the lacrimal bone of the skull that contains the lacrimal gland, which produces tears. It helps to lubricate and protect the eyes. Number 20. Atria and ventricles. These are the cavities within the heart that play a critical role in pumping blood throughout the body. The atria receive blood from the veins, while the ventricles pump blood out to the arteries.